When the famous lectern came out at 12:15, it meant, as usual, the worst news for the occupant of 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister. And when those who work there gathered to give him moral support, including today Boris Johnson's wife Carrie and baby Romy, there was no room for doubt. Boris Johnson would be resigning 3 years after he got the job he always wanted.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week. And I've today appointed a cabinet to serve, as I will, until a new leader is in place.
So we don't yet know how long he'll remain as caretaker Prime Minister, and he didn't hide that he has no desire to go.
And the reason I have fought so hard in the last few days to continue to deliver that mandate in person was not just because I wanted to do so, but because I felt it was my job, my duty, my obligation to you to continue to do what we promised in 2019.
The Prime Minister then listed what he sees as his achievements, taking the UK out of the EU, the COVID vaccination programme, with no mention of what's gone wrong, the law-breaking parties, the predatory behaviour of his last Deputy Chief Whip, the questions over who paid for gold wallpaper. He even accused Tory MPs who wanted to get rid of him as a herd.
In the last few days, I've tried to persuade my colleagues that it would be eccentric to change governments when we're delivering so much and when we have such a vast mandate and when we're actually only a handful of points behind in the polls, even in mid-term after quite a few months of pretty relentless sledging, and when the economic scene is so difficult domestically and internationally. And I regret not to have been successful in those arguments, and of course it's painful not to be able to see through so many ideas and projects myself. But as we've seen at Westminster, the herd instinct is powerful. When the herd moves, it moves. And my friends, in politics, no one is remotely indispensable. I know that there will be many people who are relieved, and perhaps quite a few who will also be disappointed. And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
A moment then to be with family and friends, and for a hug from someone he married while here, and another who was born here. Drama doesn't quite describe how Boris Johnson's term of office has come to an end. Just last night he was arguing he was indispensable, and he vowed he wouldn't be pushed out by the stampede of ministers resigning from his government and the sheer number of his MPs saying they'd lost confidence in him. But he could cling on no longer after a Chancellor of the Exchequer he'd appointed just on Tuesday said, "This is not sustainable and it will only get worse for you, Prime Minister, for the Conservative Party and most importantly, for the country. You must do the right thing and go now." And an Education Secretary, also in post for less than 2 days, said she would resign. But even though Johnson's critics seem to have got their way, they're anxious about how long it'll be till he's actually out the door.
Labour will step up in the national interest and bring a vote of no confidence, because we can't go on with this Prime Minister clinging on for months and months to come.
I do think it is quite incredible, though, to suggest that he will remain as Prime Minister for another 3 to 4 months. I think the sooner he is out of number 10, and preferably that is today, the better.
A former Tory Prime Minister, John Major, is also uneasy about Boris Johnson staying in Downing Street even for a few more weeks. He wrote, "For the overall well-being of the country, Mr Johnson shouldn't remain in Downing Street for any longer than necessary to effect the smooth transition of government." As for Boris Johnson's immediate predecessor, she made clear that whoever succeeds Boris Johnson must learn at least one important lesson.
Playing by the rules means following them not because you have to, but because you do so willingly, recognising that the damage from breaking them may not be direct or immediate, but it can be severe and lasting.
And, emerging from Wimbledon, another ex-Tory leader was relieved Johnson is leaving the game.
It was overdue. Very good. Things are improving.
So who next? ITV News asked a new member of the caretaker cabinet if he'd be a candidate.
I've been in politics a long time. I got up this morning not imagining for a minute that I'd be back in cabinet, so I've learned to expect the unexpected. What I do want is somebody who embodies one nation values.
One nation is what he said he'd build.
Thank you all very much.
But a series of scandals, which some say stem from his character, have split his party, split the nation, and caused his term in office to end in failure.